Yeah. YouTube. Back in this thing again for another review. This is Q's Insight. I am Callie, and today we are here to talk about a movie called The Nun. All right. Now, this movie came out in 2018. It's part of the whole Conjuring universe, right? From James Wan. Also, another popular universe that James Wan has created is also Insidious. Okay. But we're specifically talking about The Nun, which is a spin-off movie from The Conjuring that was made in 2018. Okay. Now, this was going into it back in the day, this was a very popular movie because of the fact of the nun, the character that James Wan created. When you see her I think it's on The Conjuring 2, I believe it is. When you see that character in The Conjuring 2, the presence, the way that this character is felt amongst the crowd when you watch it, it's a big thing. And when you see this, you're like, yo, whatever this entity is, it deserves its own movie, its own little section of 3 films, you know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what ends up happening. Now, we've only have one movie so far, which is The Nun, back in 2018, but I know that they are making The Nun 2 and should be probably coming out 2024, 2025, depending on this writer strike and everything like that. That's as soon as that's handled, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how far along the story was. If the story was far along, and they can maybe make the movie right now. If the story wasn't far along enough, they probably will need the writers to come back. So we'll see what happens. But for right now, we do know that there will be a Nun 2, but this is The Nun 1, 2018, okay? Now, if you've been to this channel before, you already know how we do it. We start off with the premise. 3 favorite scenes. And in the grave. All right. Now, again, this is The Nun, 2018. All right. Now, I'll try not to spoil this as much as possible, but being that this is an older movie, I'm going to go into detail a little bit. All right. So we got The Nun. So in the beginning of this movie, we see one of the main characters named Father Burke. All right. Actually, no. Let's take it back to the very, very, very beginning. All right. We see that at this Catholic church, whatever, right? We see that the demon, the main demon, the nun lady, all right, she has been released throughout this church, and she is taken over with evil. She is killing the nuns and getting to the point where the last nun is left alive. She is left with this key to a specific door that is in this church. And instead of facing the demon, she sacrifices herself. We think that she commits suicide, but we come to find out later on that this was a sacrifice. Okay? And it's very big to note that this was that they think it's a sacrifice, because first of all, Christianity, Catholic, whatever, if you commit suicide, you're pretty much not going to heaven. All right. So this wasn't a regular civilian, whatever. This was a nun that committed suicide in their eyes. So they call Father Burke, which is someone that's an OG priest, dealt with exorcisms, knows evil at its finest, And anytime they need somebody to, partake in the healing that is needed with an exorcism or just evil deities, whatever it may be that they have to deal with, they will call a person like Father Burke. Now, we come to learn that Father Burke does have experience with dealing with exorcisms because previously, years back, I believe it's the Vatican, whatever you want to say, or just his church circle, if you want to call it, calls him for these things, right? But we end up finding out that he had a case in a past with a person named Daniel that was possessed, and he was called in with the situation, and he tried to deal with the situation as best as he could, but in the end of the day, Daniel ended up dying. Okay, so remember that. Okay, so they call Father Burke up to deal with this situation. Father Burke is then informed that he will be working with a nun, well, per se a nun that has not taken their vows just yet. She goes by Sister Irene. Okay, so Father Burke and Sister Irene meet up with each other. They also meet up with this guy named Frenchie. Okay, he is basically a farmer within that city or that town where that church is held. All right, where in which he actually discovered the nun that killed herself because she hung herself. So he discovered the body. So he sets out to help Father Burke and Sister Irene out with this situation of this evil that's at this church. So he takes them to the church. Once they get to the church, Father Burke talks to the abbess, all right, which is like basically the main nun, the OG nun there, and she explains to him that this and that, but everything is kind of like okay, and we'll handle whatever you're here for tomorrow. So you're kind of in the situation of like, okay, well, for one, the abyss is acting very weird. You kind of get a hint of like that's not the abyss. Okay, so next day comes, and we come to find out that Father Burke and Sister Irene, them tasked to finding the evil within this church, is very easy because this church is no longer a church. There are no longer nuns there. Okay, it is only full of evil, demonic presence, spirits, entities, however you want to say. All right, and they are pulling trickery upon Father Burke, upon Sister Irene, and upon Frenchie. All right, and so within them finding out that this church is now evil, they are tasked with dealing with the evil and trying to get rid of the evil. All right. So that's where I'll end the story, the premise of this movie. Hopefully I didn't give away too much. Hopefully it was just enough to where you guys can kind of get a taste of it and maybe want to go back and check it out later down the line. If you guys already seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. And maybe you just want to go re-see it again. You know what I'm saying? Because it is a good movie. Now, I will say before I get into my 3 favorite scenes, which will be spoilerish. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to go see it, go watch it, pause this video, come back later. If you don't care about spoilers, stay here. If you've seen the movie, stay here. All right. Now, what I will say about this movie is I saw it back in the day. I was very, very hyped to see this movie. But I felt like it was a letdown. Okay, when I watched the movie back in the day, I don't know if I didn't give it enough attention. I don't know what it was. But back in the day when I watched the movie, I didn't per se like it. And I felt like it was one of the weaker movies in this Conjuring spinoff franchise that we have going on. All right. But I will say I did revisit this movie recently and I come to find that I appreciate it a lot more. All right, so I will say that. Now let's deal with these 3 favorite scenes. Now this will be spoilerish This will be possibly out of order. So if that will bother you in any type of way, please pause the video, come back later when it doesn't bother you. If it doesn't bother you, stay here, enjoy the rest of the content. All right. So my 3 favorite scenes. First scene will basically be the opening scene where we see the demon nun entity running rabbit through this church, destroying, spreading evil, killing the rest of these nuns, leaving you with no hope, to the point where the very last nun, from what we know at the point of time, commits suicide. And after the nun commits suicide, we still see the presence of the demon nun heading towards us, right? You see her close the windows that the nun committed suicide from. And that's basically it. Opening scene, very fire, very effective, pretty scary, pretty disturbing, right? And lets you know right off the bat that we are heading into something evil, all right? So it's my first favorite scene. My second favorite scene would be the scene with Daniel and Father Burke. Now we come to learn that Father Burke, like I said, has experience with dealing with demons or possession, however you want to say. And the church circle that he's in rarely deals with anybody else but him when it comes to situations like this. In order for them to handle the task, they will call him. So we come to find out, like I said, there was a situation where this character in the movie named Daniel was possessed, young boy. Father Burke was sent out to deal with the situation. He tried to do the best he could, but at the end of the day, Daniel died. All right. Now, when Father Burke tells this story to Sister Irene at this church, she's the only one that knows about this. As far as being at the church at the time, I'm pretty sure his church circle knew everything. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, like, as far as being at the church, she was the only one that knew about it. After he tells her about this, bro, there's this scene where he wakes up in the middle of the night. Daniel is the one that wakes him up, makes him come to the cemetery and attacks him with this snake. He falls. Father Burke falls down into this grave, into this casket. Casket is then closed. Dirt is piled upon him, and he's now buried alive. He rings the bell, and eventually Sister Irene hears it and comes to save him. But just that whole scene was very, very disturbing, I would say. All right. My third favorite scene would be the praying scene with Sister Irene. Okay, now when it comes close to the end of this movie, we see Sister Irene dealing with what she thinks is nuns. All right. Now she's getting help from the nuns. They're telling her, they're filling her in about the situation that's taking place and the evil that's amongst this church, and how they have to pray, and then how they have to believe in God fully to keep this evil at bay before it spread out, beyond the church. All right. They get to a situation where it's like, oh, you know what? This evil is at its utmost power throughout this church. We all need to come into this one facility or room, and we need to pray to keep this evil at bay. We come to find out that as the sisters, all the nuns are praying together, right? And Sister Irene is praying with these nuns. We come to find out that all these nuns, this was a situation that took place in the past, okay, before Sister Irene and Father Burke even arrived, okay? She is seeing visions of what happened, how the evil come to spread within the church. How the nuns tried to fight back, but unfortunately could not fight the evil at hand, and evil won. And then we see that it's not really Sister Irene that's just, sitting there with the rest of the nuns and praying and everything like that. She's actually being possessed by the demon while she's seeing this stuff. Crazy scene, disturbing scene, bro. And then we do actually see Sister Irene be possessed by the nun spirit, whatever you want to say. All right, the demon on there. Valak. All right, so that'll be 3 of my favorite scenes. So like I said, man, bro, in the past when I watched the movie, I did not really have a good time. And over the years, when I thought about this movie, I really thought that it was really weak. Going back, watch this movie, you know, I can honestly say that I appreciate it a lot more. I definitely like it. I definitely think that it's one of the stronger movies within the Conjuring universe, especially after we realize all the other movies that came afterwards. The movies that were before, you feel me? Like just everything, you know. I feel like this is definitely one of the stronger movies within the Conjuring spin-off franchise. So therefore, me saying that, therefore me finding this new happiness with this movie, I'm going to give this movie a 7.8 out of 10. All right, so 7.8 out of 10, definitely above average, definitely worth your time. If you guys haven't seen the movie, I suggest you go see it. If you guys are a fan of James Wan or the Conjuring universe or Insidious universe, I suggest you go check this movie out. If you guys don't know anything about anything that I just said right now, but you like scary movies, I suggest you go check this out. All right, it's definitely worth your time, and you will have some fun while watching it. I promise you. And if not, you know, then not. All right. If you guys see this movie, let me know what you guys thought about this movie. What were some of your favorite scenes? Are you happy that there's going to be a Nun 2? Are you happy to see this franchise continue? If you didn't like this movie, what were some of your dislikes? And tell me the reason why this franchise, this spinoff of this specific Nun franchise should stop if you feel so. All right. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. As always, this is Q's Inside. I am Kelly. Until next time.